Well, Carol Swain has a resume that is about a mile long. She holds 5 degrees, including a PhD. She was a tenured professor at Princeton and Vanderbilt University, two of the most prestigious universities in the country, and she's a distinguished senior fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. She's also a fierce critic of a dangerous and divisive ideology known as critical race theory in higher education. And it's been trickling down to the high schools and elementary schools. Yeah, even the ones that your kids and your grandkids go to. You may not realize it. So please welcome back to the show, Dr. Carol Swain. Well, we're so glad having you back, and all these folks are going to be starting school pretty soon. Do they need to be worried?
Well, they know to be worried.
Good. So what do you tell them?
Well, I can tell you that I'm very proud of America's parents, and they have been fighting, at least for the last year, the battle against CRT. But the parents are also fighting against other dangerous theories that are impacting the schools. And these theories are related to Marxism. And so you have, critical queer theory, you have feminist theories, and these things are not being presented to our children in the university format, but people who are steeped in these theories have published books and articles that are being given to children as young as first grade.
So what is a parent to look for? Because if they're not saying, oh, this is critical race theory that they're being taught, because they're not going to be that stupid to just blatantly say it, what will they be doing? How will they be marketing and packaging this that parents need to be aware of?
Well, first of all, with critical race theory, and you had that book there, Blackout for America, I talked about it on a previous show, is that the theories that teach that racism, is in the DNA of America, and that all white people are oppressors, all minorities are victims. And many states, 36 states, have passed laws prohibiting the teaching of critical race theory or critical theories, any theories that argue that one race is inherently inferior, or that or superior to another race, or that one sex is superior to another sex, and just various things that Christianity, one religion, is evil. Those types of things are prohibited, but they're still getting into the classroom. And what I really wanted to talk about tonight is social emotional learning.
Social emotional learning.
And that is something that in those states where they have prohibited the teaching of CRT and some of the other critical theories, they're still have these social emotional learning programs, and they are a backdoor way for them to do things that are harmful to our children. So they're still pushing the racial agenda that divides Americans, but they also have books that have pornography, that we would consider pornography. They have books that have suicide ideations. And so just things that...
but not the Bible. We couldn't dare let that creep in and warp these little darlings.
Well, I'm telling you, with social emotional learning, they're supposed to be helping children to be able to adapt to society and to handle, challenges. But what we have is a 300% increase in suicides among children that are 10 to 12. And I believe that is being fueled by the fact that the books, the articles, the videos, the teaching materials in the social emotional learning programs, that these have ideas that are very dangerous. And a lot of parents are on to this. Groups like Moms for Liberty, Moms for America, they have been pointing out the dangers that come from those types of materials.
Dr. Swain, where did this come from, social emotional learning? I'm not that familiar, haven't heard a lot about it. So where did it come from, and how do parents even spot it if their kids bring home a book and it's all in there? Because they're probably not going to say those 3 words per se.
No, I mean, the social-emotional learning programs are generally accepted. They're being pushed. And if you were to Google social-emotional learning, you would just get positive articles about it. And so it's a way that people who have a radical agenda are able to keep doing what they're doing, even in those states where legislation has been passed. And so for the fall, I think the parents who are organized, who have been fighting the CRT battle, they've been fighting, the sexualization of their children. If they're not aware that the social-emotional learning programs are part of the problem, and I think many of them are, then they need to really get up to speed on that. And we need our legislators to make sure that the prohibited concepts, the ones where they divide Americans along racial and ethnic lines, along gender lines, that they're not appearing in the classroom through the teaching materials, through the books, and under the umbrella of social-emotional learning.
I think it's so very important that you are one of the voices speaking out and leading on this. You grew up poor. Obviously, you're African-American. It would be real easy for you to say, I'm a victim. I can't make it. The world's against me. You've got more education than 99.9% of the American population, several PhDs. You've been to the finest schools in America and graduated from them with honors. You've taught at some of the most prestigious universities in this country. You don't go around saying, oh, I just barely made it. And I think it's a great example to say, you know what, America has been okay.
Well, I can tell you that I grew up at a time when we were all proud to be Americans. We knew that we lived in the greatest country in the world.
Yeah, we do.
And I believed in the American dream. I believed that if I worked hard and I got an education, it would make a difference. And as I've shared before, I did not plan to get 5 degrees. I started off to get my first degree because I wanted a better job. And when I applied for jobs, I was told, that I needed a 4-year degree. I made a decision to be an honest student. I purchased books and read books on how to make A's in college. I applied the principles and they worked. And I had people steer me into academia. And many of my mentors, almost all of them, were white people that encouraged me to continue my education. So I don't have time for racial hostility, racial hatred. I was never treated.
Well, it's one of the reasons I love being around you. You have such a great attitude. And I want us to talk more about not just critical race theory, but I want to talk about a brand new book that you've got coming out. We're going to keep you here if you will. And if you want to learn more about critical race theory and how it's totally ravaging our education system, Dr. Swain's book, Black Eye for America, has a lot more information. You can go to Huckabee.tv to find out more about the book and how to get it. But we've got more with Dr. Carol Swain. And when we come back, we'll talk about her latest book, Countercultural Living, what Jesus has to say about life, marriage, race, gender, and materialism.